Welcome to Retail's Most Wanted, the podcast that examines the latest issues related to organized retail crime and how retailers and policymakers are fighting back against today's organized crime syndicates. I'm your host, Marty Carpenter, and coming up on today's show, a great conversation with Frank Patercity. He's the Director of Corporate Security, Investigations, and Organized Retail Crime at Kroger. Before we get to that, a few words from our sponsors. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with the Attorney General Alliance, where U.S. State Attorneys General collaborate on emerging legal issues and the rule of law at home and across borders. Learn more at agalliance.com. Retail's Most Wanted is brought to you in partnership with LVT, securing physical environments through intelligent automation. Learn more at lvt.com. That's lvt.com. Frank Patercity leads a national team focused on disrupting and dismantling organized retail crime networks and oversees key functions like threat assessment, major crimes, and executive protection. With over 20 years of security experience, Frank's career includes roles in global security and law enforcement, beginning with his service in the U.S. Marine Corps. So we'll say welcome, Frank, and also thank you for your service. We're glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Marty. My pleasure, and I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's jump right in. How have you seen organized retail crime evolve over the years? You've been in this a long time, and maybe give us some idea of some of the trends or patterns that are most concerning to you right now.
Sure, it's a good question. And look, I would kind of give you a caveat, right? Of those 20 years of experience that I've got in the security field, only 3 have been in the retail sector. I joined Kroger just 3 years ago now. So my organized retail crime experience really only spans that time frame. What I would say is, crime and specifically, or those who commit crime, they're constantly evolving. So that's where I really see the big evolution. Lots of the tactics are traditional. They've been employed for decades. But the biggest trend I would say our team is following, and other retailers and our partners in law enforcement are following, is the evolution of gift card fraud. It's something that we're seeing kind of a shift in the criminal's focus. We place an emphasis on it internally, on protecting the products, and we work with the suppliers to make sure the gift cards are protected. And I will say the Department of Homeland Security Investigations has really recognized gift card fraud as a growing trend. And they're partnering really well with retailers to combat this. So yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest evolution that I've seen over the past 3 years. But organized retail crime is still something that we're very, very heavily focused on.
With that in mind, can you share some insights with us into how organized retail crime impacts a large retailer like Kroger and the communities that your company serves?
Sure. I would say one word that you called out there in that question is community. It really does impact all of us. And it's not just, us as Kroger, it's other retailers, it's retailers large and small, and it's impacting all Americans. And organized retail crime is a crime that begets other crime. It's kind of funny. My parents still ask me to say, "What do you do again? You catch shoplifters?" And I say, "Kind of, Pop, but it's a little more organized than that. We're not after somebody stealing a candy bar or things like that. It is organized crime in a retail setting." And when I say that it impacts, it begets other crimes, it absolutely does. The ill-gotten gains, the money that comes from organized retail crime, it's tied to other serious crimes. These organized retail crime investigations that our team conducts across the country, they often unfold and expose additional very serious crimes, weapon and drug offenses, and really reprehensibly human trafficking. We see this occur in these investigations that we unfold. And, I would tell you, I was in law enforcement for the better part of 13 years. And primarily I spent my time chasing gangs, drugs, and guns. And I never made cases as big as what I've seen in the organized retail crime setting. And I wouldn't have believed that 3 years ago.
So how important then are partnerships with law enforcement and even other retailers in this overall battle against organized retail crime?
I mean, short answer, it's the critical piece. It is the critical piece. We have to have partnership with law enforcement, but it's one piece in the puzzle. We have to establish these connections with law enforcement. And really, Marty, the key here for, my colleagues, and they all know this, and many of them better than I do, is establishing these relationships and these partnerships with law enforcement ahead of time. Trying to establish a relationship with a law enforcement agency after an investigation has happened, or by simply, calling the police to come and investigate a large-scale theft is a challenge. I would tell you candidly, as a young law enforcement officer, if I got called to a store where there was, shoplifting, even a significant one, it wasn't something that I wanted to do anything with. I was more, like I said, gangs, drugs, and guns was what I was after. So if we as, asset protection professionals and leaders can establish those relationships with the right law enforcement agencies, the right personnel at law enforcement agencies, because I know, many law enforcement agencies have task forces set up now. Many attorneys general have task forces set up across the country that are pointed towards organized retail crime. So for our team, it's critical that we establish those relationships, and it's more than just transactional. It's not, us picking up the phone when, we've got an investigation or a case. It's making sure that we're fostering those relationships, we're being good partners with our law enforcement partners before the crisis is underway.
So law enforcement's one element of that. I wonder about other businesses, other large retailers. What kind of relationship do you have to build with even a company that may be a competitor when it comes to selling products, but you're on the same team when it comes to not being impacted or fighting back against organized retail crime? How do those relationships get built, and how important are those?
Yeah, so they get built through a variety of ways. I think, this is a pretty small industry, despite, large retailers out there. Many organized retail crime investigators, managers, whatever their title may be, know each other professionally through, any variety of ways. One of them, organized retail crime associations, which are in just about every state in the country. I know, many of our organized retail crime managers at Kroger, actually nearly 85%, sit in leadership positions on these organized retail crime associations, and it's for that very purpose. It's to establish their network, it's to benchmark, and it's to work together, because there's no competition in crime, right? You've got other big retailers, and yes, we may be competitors, of course. Healthy competition is good. However, we don't want to have a competition for who is being victimized by criminals. So we often will partner when there are cases that involve each other, and that's not uncommon. All ushered through by law enforcement, of course.
There's a level there for law enforcement, and there's a level that has to come into play, and that's creating the laws. Are there any recent legislative developments that have been particularly effective in addressing organized retail crime?
Yes. So, like I said, law enforcement partnership, it's a key component, but supporting those legislative efforts for us to combat organized retail crime really is the strategic move. It's the strategic move that's going to invoke real change. We can work and chase these cases and make arrests and lock up these prolific organized retail crime recidivists. But until we make the legislative change, that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to kind of keep chasing that down. So I would say that we work closely with the Retail Industry Leaders Association and the National Retail Federation to advance a couple of pieces of legislation. So the INFORM Act, the Informed Consumers Act, and the CORCA bill, the Combating Organized Retail Crime Act, if I have my acronyms correct.
I think that's right.
Right, and we've worked to further those. We continue to partner with them. We're partnering with NRF and RELA and internal government affairs partners. We're trying to seek bipartisan support for the passage of the CORCA bill, and it's important to get to Capitol Hill. It's important to actually go there and to lobby for these things and to show the lawmakers, literally show them, the impact of ORC on everyday Americans. And that's something that I'm proud of, proud of Kroger for. I'm proud of our team for. going and doing the hard work, meeting with the lawmakers and their staffs and showing them just exactly how organized retail crime is impacting us. Because like I said, my parents still ask me, do you chase shoplifters? Well, no, it's not that. It's much more. And when you can, show a lawmaker, you can show a congressman what ORC is, you're much more likely to get that support that you need.
There's an element of cat and mouse here, right? Every time you figure out how to hamper the efforts of an organized retail crime syndicate, they sort of adapt, and then you have to go figure out how to stop the next thing that they're doing. What do you see as the next big challenge in the fight against organized retail crime?
Well, I think that you hit the nail on the head, right? Where there's this reverse engineering. Anytime we, collectively put some kind of a stopgap or a mitigation in place, a criminal who makes it their job, a professional booster, somebody who is doing this for a living, not a casual shoplifter, right? They're working on ways to reverse engineer the mitigation efforts that we've put into place. So that's always a challenge. But there's always a challenge when you're fighting crime of any kind, and not just ORC. I'll say collectively, I think we face challenges keeping the spotlight on ORC, and that's retail in general. There's lots of distractions in the news cycle. This week alone, 2 major hurricanes, an election. There's all kinds of things that are always occurring, and they're taking all of our attention and putting it elsewhere. But we have to ensure that we're pulling every lever we have. So industry partnerships, the legislative pushes, law enforcement partnerships. I think those are the ways that we stay in front of these challenges, and we keep the spotlight on ORC that way.
All right, I'll get you out of here on this one. What advice would you give to other heads of security in the retail industry who are facing similar challenges with organized retail crime? Because you're at a big player. Kroger's a big company. So either to other companies that might be the same size or smaller in particular, what's some advice you would give to someone in your chair, but with a different organization?
Well, first, Marty, I tell you, I'm humbled by this question, and I'll answer it honestly. And with 3 whopping years in the retail world, it's not lost on me that you're asking me to give advice to some folks that have been in this industry for 35, 40 years. But I will share what I know from my collective experience over the past 20, 25 years in the security industry. I would say focus on people first. I said that's the number one thing that you can do. I think ORC is often misbegotten as a property crime, and while technically it is a theft, but on a large scale basis, it really couldn't be further from the truth. It's so much more than that. ORC, we talked earlier, how it begets these other serious crimes. It not just impacts, but it victimizes the American public. And a fight against ORC really is a just cause, and one by which disrupting and dismantling these criminal enterprises ensures that we're serving a greater good. It really does. And when leaders, I think, when we can widen our aperture and see beyond the property crime aspect, it allows us to focus on what matters most, and that's people. And it's not just, it's our customers, it's our associates, and it's the public we serve. That if we can focus on that and make it a bigger discussion versus just a property crime, we'll do well there.
Frank Patercity is the Director of Corporate Security, Investigations, and Organized Retail Crime at Kroger. Frank, thanks so much for sharing your perspective and your expertise with us today.
Thanks, Marty. Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of Retail's Most Wanted. Thanks to our presenting sponsors, LVT and the Attorney General Alliance. Don't forget to hit that subscribe or follow button so you can catch each new episode. We're going to drop a new one twice a month. We're also on X, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube. You can find links to all of those in the show notes below. Thanks for being with us, everyone. And as always, keep up the good fight.